Here are the progressive news headlines for today, Thursday, August 13th. House Democrats unveiled legislation yesterday that would reverse Postmaster General Louis DeJoy's disruptive new policies and prevent additional changes at the post office until the end of the COVID-19 pandemic. Representative Gerry Connolly tweeted, with the introduction of the bill, Congress must stop the Trump administration's deliberate sabotage to disrupt mail service in the lead up to the November elections. The legislation would prohibit any change to the postal service that would affect services on a nationwide basis, any revision of service standards, and any closure or consolidation of post offices or reduced facility hours. Is it going to pass? Does it have bipartisan support? These are questions that linger. Call your representative right now and tell them to support the Delivering for America Act. It's very important. You know, a lot of people who live in red states really rely on the mail, both on the post office mail for their small businesses, for their prescription drugs. So this could very well be a bipartisan initiative. The International Children's Aid Agency, UNICEF, which you see from ads on your Facebook page, is launching its first permanent initiative focused on aiding children in the United States. That's right. UNICEF now needs to aid children in what is the richest still so far country in the world. Insane. We are the most powerful nation and we don't feed our children. I don't see how our power can stand. This comes after decades of UNICEF focusing mainly on supporting young people in developing countries, the ones that President Trump would call sometimes shithole countries. And now they're here in our place. You know, A plus B equals C. Does that mean we're a shithole country now? The U.S. affiliate of the UN agency marked International Youth Day by unveiling its child-friendly cities initiative in Minneapolis, Houston, San Francisco, and Prince George County in Maryland, aimed at making the communities more livable for children. Pardon me, had to use my cough button there. Didn't want to cough in your face. And no, it's not a dry cough. It's an I ate a handful of nuts before we started this show cough. So thanks for bearing with me. The Society of General Internal Medicine, a group representing more than 3,300 of the world's leading academic general internists, including doctors, researchers, and educators, is endorsing Medicare for All reform. Will Kamala Harris endorse Medicare for All reform? It remains to be seen. It announced yesterday that it endorsed the policy position of the American College of Physicians, which recommends that the United States transition to a system that achieves universal coverage with essential benefits and lower administrative costs. SGIM's endorsement follows a year of rapid movement among physicians toward Medicare for All. You can join the fight for Medicare for All at PNHP, that's Physicians for a National Health Plan, pnhp.org/take-action. That's exciting. Faith leaders across the Southeast recently held the first Faith Communities and Climate Resilience Summit, aimed at addressing how congregations can be more resilient in facing increased floods, extreme weather events, and other climate change impacts. Oh, so good to see the faith community coming on board with the scientific community. Gerald Godet, who's a minister of the church in St. Paul, says for his small, predominantly African-American congregation, climate change is another battle alongside struggles for food security, social justice, and health care. The summit comes in the midst of the overlapping crises of the hurricane season and the coronavirus pandemic, and I would add the economic pandemic that we're dealing with, the crash, galvanizing religious leaders to build community climate resilience. This comes, I find it very interesting that this comes on the day that a Catholic priest, a bishop, I guess, from Rhode Island, made a snarky, passive-aggressive Catholic passive aggressive joke about how Joe Biden isn't a Catholic, even though he is a Catholic. But the idea was, that he said something on Twitter about how Joe Biden is not, it's unfortunate that we don't have a Catholic on the ticket. That's basically what he said, which indicates that because Biden is, a pro-choice Catholic, pro-justice Catholic, pro-dealing with climate change Catholic, that he's not a real Catholic, much like their Pope. Meanwhile, I just want to point out that guy oversaw the Pittsburgh diocese, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has one of the highest rates of child abuse, child molestation, and child rape in the Catholic Church. And he oversaw one of the dioceses for years and years and years until he somehow got moved to Rhode Island. So, I think he should point when you got one finger pointing at someone else, there's three pointing back to remind you that you oversaw child abuse. It's ridiculous. I think Catholics should be up in arms about what he said. I think Catholics should be up in arms about the child abuse scandal. I think they should be up in arms about the thing that their Pope is up in arms about, like climate change. So it heartens me, gives me faith to see that other faith leaders are tackling climate resilience across the country. It's about time. In other news, the Senate still hasn't taken action to pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act passed by Congress in June. Are you crazy? Did we think this was going to happen? No, not the Senate, not the Mitch McConnell Senate. Meanwhile, Every Town for Gun Control is demanding that the Senate take action because they do good work, that group. According to the Gun Sense group, while the federal government has only so much control over how state and city police govern, passing the Justice in Policing Act would be a critical step to creating an America where Black lives matter and Black people receive justice. Some of the bill's key provisions include improving the use of force standard for federal officers and requiring officers to intervene when other officers use excessive force. Will Kamala Harris be voting for this if it actually comes to the floor? If it we shall see. I'm sure Mitch McConnell wouldn't let it come to the floor of the Senate, because then she could vote pro, and then she could prove that, she does believe Black Lives Matter, et cetera. It could go far in helping her. So I'm sure, even though it would be likely defeated by the Republican majority in the Senate, McConnell is not going to be bringing that to the floor. But you can tell your senators to get on it and try to get that to happen. Go to act.everytown.org and pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. That's what you want to tell your senators. Could be very exciting. You're watching ACT-TV. I'm Julianna Forlano. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. And I really enjoy your comments, by the way. Sorry it took my Kamala, my thoughts about Kamala Harris yesterday as an endorsement of enormous, proportions. That's not what happened. Good morning to everybody on Twitch and on Facebook. Please follow us across platforms at ACT TV. Thanks for watching.